This is a city council retreat. We do this twice a year for the purpose of coming together and either set policy on different issues, or in this particular case, bringing together the council.
John Martin comes down from Richmond, and they do quite a bit of work with groups and governmental and nonprofit. And basically his function right now is to kind of get everybody together on the same page.
Well, the retreat today is focused on how the council can work better together as a team. That's always a good thing.
We have, new city council members, we have seasoned city council members, and we're trying to find that happy medium of sorts to kind of, remain a working body, work together, and, really, we look forward to great things.
I think that, we had a good, honest conversation among each other. The need for us to unify and build those positive bridges going forward. The city has some challenges ahead of us.
Without a doubt, the most important thing we discussed was the upcoming search for a new city manager. Perhaps the most important thing a council does in its tenure.
We're currently in the process of identifying a firm who will conduct a national search. Once the firm is identified, that group will lead this exhaustive and extensive search to identify the right individual to lead our city into the future.
Well, we want somebody who has vision, who is good with dealing with the public, and is involved with the community, who's able to delegate, who's able to negotiate.
I want to see somebody who's not afraid of a little bit of risk. I think analyzing risk that has a high likelihood of success, but I think we need a little risk. I think we need to be bold.
We get to decide, the direction Virginia Beach is going. It's an exciting time for our citizens of Virginia Beach, and we get to choose the identity and define who we are and where we want to be.
We can couple two of the major things, which is, of course, the beginning of our next comprehensive land use plan with our plans for dealing with the flooding and stormwater. We have the opportunity to adapt our city to the future with our problems with flooding and how we're going to develop. And I think being able to marry those two things during this year is a great challenge and a great opportunity.
It's where we want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. We're already a good, great city, but to do this, we have to take it to the next level.
Hello and welcome to VB 411. I'm your host, Ms. Information, the know-it-all in City Hall, here again to bring truth and clarity to misconceptions and rumors. The topic of the day, feeding the beaches. Every few years, the city and/or the Army Corps of Engineers replenishes the sands along our shorelines. Now, there seems to be a few misconceptions around the timing of this year's operation and why we do these projects in the first place. So to start us off, let's take a look at the current replenishment operations at the oceanfront. Since the project was announced earlier this year, people have contacted us on social media and by email and have written letters to the newspaper about the topic. One of the main criticisms is that the city picked an inopportune time to take on this project. While it's fair to say that the project did start at an inconvenient time, the height of summer, the city didn't really have any say in the timing. The project was expected to be done earlier this year. However, the schedule is controlled by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Since the federal government is paying for most of the project, about $14.7 million of the total $22.6 million, they have control over the schedule as well as when the funds are made available. Also, there are a limited number of contractors who have the equipment necessary to perform this kind of work. We had to work around their availability since we're not their only customer. Every 5 to 7 years, it becomes necessary to replenish the sand, which is where we are now. To do this project ahead of this year's hurricane season and when contractors are available, it had to be now. The replenishment work will widen the shoreline to 300 feet and raise the beach to 9 feet above sea level. When it is complete, the resort beach will have 1.4 million cubic yards of sand added to it. That's enough to fill 2 billion large coffee cups from Starbucks. So what does all this sand do? Well, the primary function of a wide beach is to protect oceanfront infrastructure from a hurricane. The more space we can create between the ocean and the buildings and roadways, the more likely we are to withstand storm flooding. Crews are working in 1,000-foot sections from 15th Street headed north to 70th Street. Each section takes about 2 to 3 days to complete, with work taking place 24/7. The work is temporary and will ensure our beach is around for years to come and our infrastructure is protected. In fact, this kind of work doesn't just happen along the resort area. The city will have replenished all of our beaches from Sandbridge through Chesapeake Beach over a 2-year period by the spring of 2020. This has never been done in the history of the city. So you might wonder, what would it look like if we just let nature to run its course? Well, look no farther than the Ash Wednesday storm of 1962, when our resort area beach was 80 to 100 feet at its widest. A storm pounded our shores for nearly 36 hours before it left the area. In the end, the seawall, which also serves as our boardwalk, had been breached in several areas, resulting in damage to the boardwalk, along with more damage or destruction of property along our shoreline. Similarly, a hurricane or nor'easter could inflict the same damage. Since 2003, it's estimated that these replenishment efforts have averted $430 million in storm damage compared to the $20.2 million local dollars invested in the resort area. Put simply, inaction is more costly than taking action. In essence, the seawall protects the infrastructure behind it, and the sand keeps the water from overwhelming the seawall. Fortifying our beach just as we head into hurricane season is important to our city and the businesses that are dependent upon this resource. For more information about the Beach Replenishment Project and to track its progress, click on the Beach Replenishment article on our website, vbgov.com/VB411. And now you're in the know. Thanks for joining us today. Is there a topic you'd like to see answered on camera? Send an email to misinfo@vbgov.com and we'll get on it. See you next time.
Today we're celebrating our first anniversary at the Housing Resource Center. A year ago, this very day, we brought in our first family. So the Housing Resource Center is a one-stop shop for persons experiencing homelessness and those in a housing crisis in the city of Virginia Beach.
Since opening the doors since last September, the Housing Resource Center had over 15,000 visits from people seeking help, social services, day support, housing, and shelter.
It actually has been an amazing partnership. So actually this morning before I came in, I had the opportunity to call the clients who moved in this day last year. We took in our first 9 families. So it was like, hey, happy anniversary. We've officially been together for a year, because once they leave this building, they're still attached to us. They don't have to go away. They still come back. They can use the health clinic. They can still go upstairs to meet with their SNAP worker or their TANF worker.
If I was to ever make a move to do something better for myself, this would be the place that I do it.
What brought me here was a series of events that kind of happened. It was time for a change. I lived on the beach. Fortunately, for those 5 months I was on the beachfront. I slept on the benches, maybe in the bush, behind buildings, and I found out that this space was coming available. I was extremely excited because there was no other way for me to be able to live sanely. It was definitely a godsend.
I'm proud to say that we have actually housed over 500 people in our system.
At the end, when they're leaving here and they're ringing the bell because they're going into their house and we're loading up that van, there's no better feeling. And that's what this collaboration is all about.
It's exciting. It's very exciting because I'm looking forward to another year and many more. This is going to be a permanent place for me to stay.
At Rudee Loop, affectionately called The Loop, and we are standing in front of Amy Bruce's newest mural.
This piece right here is called Prismatic Play. It depicts these colorful octopuses engaging with each other, hanging out, doing a lot of things you might see at the beach, you know, wearing sunglasses, under beach umbrellas, making sand castles.
It is so much fun. It's kind of the octopus's garden and whimsical. She's really captured the life and whimsy of coming to the shore.
I was inspired by Something in the Water, that whole festival by Pharrell. It dragged in a lot of awesome characters, really cool people, a lot of positive energy, and I kind of wanted to reflect that in this piece right here. These octopuses represent the people, the community of Virginia Beach. They're all different shapes, sizes, even different colors.
Public art is already shaping Rudee Loop. We had Giuseppe Pepegacca, an international artist, and he created the mural at the underpass called Seashore Cathedral. And then our second piece called World Below the Brine, and it's an interactive installation, and that is done by Piece of Cake Productions. And now this whole little corner has become a community parklet, and Amy's piece wraps around it and kind of draws people in.
I'd say Virginia Beach and art, definitely at first it was slow goings, but I feel like now with the more recent years, there's definitely free-flowing creativity happening within the Vibe District and all over Virginia Beach and even in the 757 area. Maybe we might not be as big, but Virginia Beach is definitely gunning for being on the map of the creative arts, for sure.
I'm installing Parallel Migrations number 25, and essentially this is a piece where I've decided to use the image of the monarch butterfly as a metaphor for the plight of migrants, immigrants, and refugees who, along with the butterflies, may do these migrations in search of sanctuary and safety. Eco-art essentially is art that in some place engages the environment directly or indirectly, and mine do both. It can be in a museum and people are still going to follow the butterflies around the gallery walls, maybe outdoors and indoors, and in the process they're going to be asking the same questions and be thinking about their relationship to the environment. All of these were prepared ahead of time. They were printed, cut, sometimes repainted, waterproofed, put on backings that are permanent woven linen, and then they get attached to the trees. And people are invited to follow the path here from Lake Lawson, and will end up at the playground. Some are really big clusters to catch your attention, and then some are smaller. You have to look up, and you have to look down, and you have to look around. And in the process, think about why are they here? How did they get here? And then how did you get here? How did your parents get here? How did your grandparents get here?
This program that Mrs. Dovek has put together is a recognition of the need for environmental constraints as far as preserving the wildlife and the atmosphere that a park like this size creates and preserves. The program is something that she does all over the country. What she's done is taken her examples of butterfly illustrations and placed them on trees throughout the preserve in order to emphasize the importance of preserving the environment.
I think it's about awareness. The most important aspect for children is to realize that the species, two-legged, six-legged, two-winged, finned, clawed, are all valuable. And all of our survival is interrelated. And if you get rid of bees and butterflies and bats and birds, you don't have pollinators. And the butterflies are pollinators, there is this ripple effect. Nothing happens in isolation. Whether it's the words you use in your life, whether it's the things you do in your life, or the things that you condone, it's all interrelated.
Ray Pearson, been here at the Virginia Beach Sports Center with your very latest Q&A.
Hi, Ms. Ray. We have a question for you today. There are 15,795 tons of concrete in the Sports Center. If we were to compare this weight to that of large animals, would that be equal to?
A, 2,503 Asian elephants. B, 210 blue whales. Or C, 157,950 panda bears.
I have no idea, but maybe you do. Is it A, B, or C? Time's up.
The correct answer is C.
On average, an adult female panda bear weighs about 200 pounds, which is 1/10 of a ton. So if we slide a 0 onto that original number, that equals 157,950 panda bears.
That's a lot of cuddly panda bears.
Thank you, Jaden and Cameron, for your equation. And we're sending you all and your classmates some Virginia Beach Sports Center love as Bree Run High School celebrates its 40th anniversary.
Hello and welcome to VB 411. I'm your host, Ms. Information, the know-it-all in City Hall, here again to bring truth and clarity to misconceptions and rumors. Today's episode is all about the stormwater infrastructure in Virginia Beach. Whether it's pipes below your neighborhood, ponds to collect rainwater, or pump stations to move water along, there are pieces of this complex system strategically placed throughout our city. But how do engineers know what to place and where? Well, to help us answer that question, I've brought in the city's Stormwater Engineering Center Administrator, Tony Alger, to talk us through the challenges we face and what the city is doing to combat them. Tony, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just get right to it. When we talk about stormwater infrastructure, we often hear about recurrent flooding in neighborhoods throughout the city. Is it my imagination, or does it seem more common these days?
It's not your imagination. So in the last 50 years, we have documented proof that the sea level has risen almost a foot. Now, the city of Virginia Beach's neighborhoods outfall to these tidally influenced waters that are impacted by sea level rise. So when it rains, the stormwater cannot outfall into, say, the Chesapeake Bay or the Atlantic Ocean because those levels are now higher.
Okay, so why can't we just go into neighborhoods and put in bigger pipes and pumps and move along the water?
Well, we could do that, and we're going to be doing that in neighborhoods. However, we need to model these neighborhoods first to see what kind of impacts the improvements in one neighborhood may have on another neighborhood, whether it's upstream or downstream. So that brings me to talk about the modeling. What we're doing is we're updating the city's stormwater master plan, which last was developed in the 1980s and early 90s. And we're doing that using stormwater modeling. And what the modeling does, it's going to identify deficiencies in the stormwater management system within the city. And in particular, we can look at specific neighborhoods and see what kind of needs they require to improve their drainage.
Okay, so once you know what's needed for a project, how do you determine what gets done first?
So as part of the master planning project, we're also creating a prioritization tool. And with this tool, we're going to look at things like emergency access, structural flooding, which is flooding in people's homes, and those types of things would be higher priorities. So we're going to look at all the watersheds in the city of Virginia Beach and take the projects that get developed out of the stormwater modeling, and we're going to put them through this prioritization tool and come up with the projects that the city needs to work on first.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. We're on a 15-year plan to complete these projects. So why does it take so long?
So funding is the first reason that it takes so long. So if we had all of the funding, we could obviously move a little bit quicker. However, environmental permitting is another obstacle that we have to face with these projects. As I mentioned, with the neighborhoods outfalling to tidally influenced waters, that requires a large environmental permit, which when I say large, I mean it impacts a lot of things. So the more impacts there are, the longer it takes to get an environmental permit.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the end of this 15 years. What can our residents expect from our infrastructure investment?
So first, we want to eliminate flooding within their homes in a 100-year storm. So a 100-year storm is a storm that has a 1% chance of occurring every year. And the second thing we want to do is to keep the street flooding to a maximum, 3 inches at the top of the crown, which makes the roads passable in a 10-year storm. And a 10-year storm is a storm that has a 10% chance of occurring every year.
Okay, so bringing us back to present day, what are some of the places where we're seeing results with these projects?
So obviously we've had some drainage issues in Windsor Woods, Prince Anne Plaza, and the lakes. And we've almost completed the dredging projects in those neighborhoods. And we have heard that the streets are draining faster. The flooding is still there, however, not as bad, or as it doesn't last as long. And the other one I wanted to mention is just more recently when Dorian was off the coast, the tides were higher in the bay, and of course the wind was blowing from the north, making those tides higher. We had a project in the Cape Henry Canal where we installed 3 sluice gates. We actually were able to close those during the storm to keep the high tide out of the canal so that the drainage within the neighborhoods surrounding the Cape Henry Canal could drain better.
So it sounds like we have a solid plan to tackle this issue. Where can people go to learn more about these projects?
So we have a web page. It's under the Public Works web page, and it's called the Stormwater Engineering Center. And you can get there by going to vbgov/PW Stormwater. And that's where all of our studies are, all of our flood control projects are located on that website, as well as the quarterly report that I give to council every 3 months. Those are all located on that webpage. In fact, I just gave one last week, and that's already up on that webpage as well.
Great. And you have sea level rise documents on there as well?
Yes, we have another webpage with sea level rise, and that's PWSLR. That's VBGov PWSLR. And that's where we have all of the presentations we've given regarding sea level rise, all of the studies we've done, the policy reports are out there, the nature and natural-based solutions is up there. As well as we have a storyboard that talks about sea level rise and how it's occurred over the years in Virginia Beach.
Well, I know that that's a lot of great information that's available for our citizens. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us all the 411.
Happy to come.
And now you're in the know. Thanks for joining us today. Do you have an idea for a topic we should cover? Well, send an email to misinfo@vbgov.com and we'll get on it. Oh, and don't forget, you can check out previous episodes and articles anytime on our companion website, vbgov.com/VB411. See you next time.
Came through, I can say from everyone involved in this, it got our hearts and it made it really easy. We had people really excited to work here and they keep asking to come back and work here. So the why was a really easy one. This really did us as much good as it would do anybody else involved.
You know, being that it is in the Virginia Beach City Public School building and it's a special needs community, my emphasis was just on safety and making sure that we were ADA compliant because the room they had before was practical, but it wasn't optimal. It's really neat to see how it all comes together because I know that a lot of special needs kids can't do, but they definitely feel, and they feel good when they're able to do things.
Being in the room, I could see how it's helpful for her, even though she's not going to necessarily go on beyond her own or learn how to actually make a bed, but to actually be part of it, to get to make a smoothie, do these things that other children get to do, it allows her to participate in a different way, which is really nice to see.
When we talk about what's your why, well, this is our why. We do it for children, and this special needs population is benefiting so much from the facilities that our community and our businesses were able to provide for us, and our teachers have developed a curriculum. It's the icing on the cake.
It's very hard in the special needs community, and for people to step up and present these wonderful opportunities to help us, it's just, there is a need, and you know, we need all the help we can get.
As a father of a special needs kid, oftentimes our kids' handicaps become my handicaps because we don't think people understand us. So gestures like this are really nice because it lets us know that people do see the need, they understand, and that they're willing to help.
Everything is logistics in life, but you know, when you have that extra support from the community, from the school, from businesses, it gives you the motivation to continue and to keep moving forward and say, okay, there is still hope and I can do this because there's people around to help you.
Kathy and Carson were the ones that made this happen. Kathy with Home Depot, Carson at First Atlantic, they put it together and their hearts were the ones that made it happen. They're the ones that came back with tears in their eyes telling me about what had happened, the impact that was going on, And these are the ones that made it happen. I can't take credit for this. These two ladies right here are the heart of this whole project. I want to say thank you for them. I can't take credit for this.
This is just the beginning. We're taking daily life skills and, it starts with the school, but it bleeds out into the home, the community, and we've got lessons for home, school, community, and these independent living activities that we're teaching children. This is a real life world experience right here. So when we talk about bedroom activities and what we can do in sorting clothes and the laundromat, we've got it. And when we're talking about cooking and providing just basic living skills, we've got the appliances, the kids can come to the freezer. So we're providing an authentic learning environment for our children.